Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Wrack video blog, where we share insights into the design process, the gaming universe, and all things Wrack. The video in the background is some time-lapse footage of me working on level 4. Now, this was shot about 2 weeks ago, so the level has since then been completed, but hopefully this gives you guys a good idea of what it's like to actually work on one of these things. You can see me doing all sorts of things, like going back and referencing the original map, and just so everything I do going forward with that level just makes sense in terms of the original and everything else I've got going on elsewhere on the level, in terms of detail and architecture and all that fun stuff. I can already hear some of you guys being like, "Oh, how come you're not using this feature? How come you're not using prisms and all that stuff?" And it's my program. I wrote it, and I will use it how I want to. Thank you very much. But hopefully you guys find this pretty interesting. Watching, kind of seeing how this gets put together. And hey, who knows? Maybe next week's video will be me actually playing this level, so you guys can actually see the finished product. How very exciting. Now, before I get to this week's topic, I want to give you guys a bit of a status update on what's going on with Wrack. Now, as I mentioned before, level 4 has been completed, so about a month into deciding that I really had to revamp these levels, 2 of them are done, so that's really good. That's about what I'm shooting for, about 2 levels a month. Although I'm about to start redoing level 6 here, and that's pretty huge, so that's probably going to take about 3 to 4 weeks. But the good news is that these first 3 levels that I'm going to be redoing, those are the biggest ones. So I would expect those to take most of the time, and then just doing the others are smaller and probably won't take 2 weeks each. So hopefully all the levels here will be all completely done within the next few months, and that's a really big important part of Wrack. So then from then on, it should just be a matter of getting the animations and other little things and finishing up the storyboards and the music and sounds and all that. But I really think the meat of it is the levels, and those are coming along great. I'm also redoing EXO's origin story. Now, I don't really want to talk too much about the characters because the beta's not out there, and you guys haven't really gotten a chance to experience them. All you've kind of gotten to do is read about him, which isn't nearly as interesting. But I am changing it from, he's the last of his race, and he's trying to resurrect them, to he was exiled from his planet because he's a giant dick. So I'll just leave it at that. It really is going to work so much better. Just kind of in terms of his general demeanor and personality, and it should give us a lot better options for things we can do in later games involving him. I also didn't want to really... I kind of like your guys' input on this, but I kind of wonder if people don't really want like a complex villain. Like they just want like someone who's like, he's evil, he wants to enslave everyone, versus like a really nuanced character with lots of conflicts and struggles and all that. Yeah, it's like taking Star Wars for an example. It's like I think people liked it a lot more when like Vader was just like this badass evil guy, and they didn't like it so much when I did the prequels and it's like, hey, he's actually a kid and was actually corrupted and all this stuff. I think I liked it better when it was simple. So I don't know. I mean, let me know what you guys think, but I am making those changes to him, and I think it's going to make for just much better possibilities and everything. So that's that. So on to this week's topic. Now, the subject I want to discuss is the idea of variety, and specifically whether or not it's better to have more variety within the levels, and by level, I mean area or whatever. I mean, not every game is specifically broken into levels, but whether or not it's better to have more variety within an area, but less variety from area to area, or if it's better to have less variety within an area, but more variety from level to level. And to give you an example, for instance, like Borderlands, like the whole game, like, it's pretty much in one environment. Now, I mean, towards the end there's some other things, but for the most part, all of the game takes place in this outdoor, kind of arid environment with this wasteland with rocks and sky and all that. Whereas something like Wrack and other games that have inspired it, like Castlevania, Mega Man, all that stuff. Yeah, it's like each level you're in has like its very own unique identity, and as you go from level to level, they're all very, very different. And so, I mean, kind of what I've been worried about as I've been working these levels is people getting bored, because the levels are a lot longer than they used to be. And that just comes from opening them up, having wider hallways and bigger fights and all that. I would say they're about 50% longer now, or at least in terms of time to complete. So they were already fairly long. So it's really getting to be on the long side per level. And my concern is that if you're spending 15 minutes like in one environment, are you going to get bored of it? Are you going to get sick of looking at all the same textures and same kind of architectural ideas, and all that? And kind of the conclusion that I've come to, and I would like to get all your thoughts on this. I think the ceiling is higher if you're doing it the way we're doing it, where each level kind of has its own unique identity, and it's different as you progress from level to level. There's that stark contrast between, say, level 1 of Wrack, where it's outdoors and buildings and cityscape and all that, and then you go to level 2, where it's all indoors and green and brown and nukage and all that stuff. I think that if you can keep people from getting bored within one particular level, then I think when they go from level to level, it's that contrast that you get from the difference between the different levels. I think that's a really good thing. I think it really keeps you stimulated as you play through the game. Whereas I don't think you get that with something like a Borderlands or even a Doom. I mean, Doom's another one I put in that category. It's like all of like Doom Episode 1. It pretty much looks the same. Like it's the same texture set, it's the same kind of environments. Yeah, I mean, I would say that in the levels of Doom Episode 1, there's more contrast than what's in Wrack's, like, say, I don't know, level 2 and 3, which are the same kind of environment. But the episode as a whole, like, there's not all that much contrast between the different Wrack levels, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's like in Doom, there's not a lot of contrast from level to level, but within the different levels, there's a lot more contrast than maybe say something like Wrack has. So it's I think it's easier to keep people stimulated if you have. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're trying to do the whole lots of contrast from level to level, I think that's harder to pull off. Because you have to stop people. First of all, it's a lot more work you're making a lot more different texture sets and everything. You're coming up with a lot more environments, and it's a lot more work to do all that. But I think if you can keep people from getting bored within those different environments, then I think the ceiling's a lot higher. I think you can have a lot more interesting things as you go along. So I don't know. I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on that. It's a pretty interesting thing. I've kind of tried to do this with Wrack because I don't want people to. Yeah, I really want people to be stimulated as they go through the game. But I think what I've heard from some people is that they don't really care about that all that much. I think they maybe prefer the Doom way of doing things, which is just kind of one giant texture set for an episode, and just kind of have a lot of variation within that one texture set. And that's something we might do in episode 2 and 3. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to figure out what works and what you guys want and all that good stuff. So, anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you next time.